Hello everyone and welcome back to this course on creating your own info screen in React. This is a bonus episode that included some stuff that I haven't always included in the course, and specifically I figured we'd add a clock to our info screen because that's sort of a basic thing to an info screen. After you have the dad jokes, you also need the clock. That makes complete sense to everyone. And it's kind of interesting to show this off because while we have worked with two sort of different APIs now that are external resources, we are now going to work on some tools that aren't necessarily external to your computer, but it's information that exists in your computer. But we're still going to work on it in kind of the same way that we have before. So basically, we want to add the time to this info screen, and we already know that our computer knows what time it is. However, time in computers is notoriously complicated to handle. Time zones and dates become super complicated and everything. So in general, we always recommend that you check out some sort of library that has made standardized and simpler to use functions that you can use. The one I like to use is Luxon, and you're looking at the documentation page of it right now. There's a lot of development in these sort of things, so if you're watching this video a couple of months from now, Luxon might be outdated. The first time I made this info screen, I used a different tool. But Luxon is a very good one, and it's likely to work whenever, but just be aware that front-end development changes with the moon cycles, it feels like sometimes. In any case, let's get started with Luxon. The first thing we need to do is, since this is an external app, we need to install it like we had before. If you are running your web server, remember to shut it down with Control-C. I'm not currently, so I'm just going to write npm install Luxon, and it's written with an X. And then that installs. It shouldn't take very long. It's not a huge package, but it'll take a little bit of time for sure. There we go. Actually, while that's working, let's set up the component like we have before. So we want to set up a new component. Let me just close down all this other stuff I don't need anymore, and make a new file. I'm just going to call this clock.javascript, and I'm going to do the same stuff we've done with all the other ones, importing React from React, and then we're going to make a function clock. It's like this, and then we're going to return a div that says clock. And then we gotta export the file, export default clock. And that's the standard boilerplate you've seen a bunch of times right now. Let's make sure we also include it in this time. Let's actually put the clock on top, because while obviously the dad jokes are more important, it makes more sense to have the clock on the top of the page, at least in my head. Let's check back at the install. The install is completed and it worked just fine. So now we can start our web server again, just like we did before, with npm start. Obviously, this needs to be running before we can check if our function worked. Let's do this. Oh, see here, I actually made a mistake, and the mistake is simply I forgot to import this clock. Just like I had with the other two. So import clock from /clock, and then we can go back and refresh, and it should just surf. See, now we have a clock here. Okay, let's do the actual work then. So normally you would need to look at the documentation for Luxon to figure out how it works, and then you would just be scrolling around these pages. There should be some sort of guides. There can be there's an install guide, and there's a quick tour and that sort of stuff, and it shows you kind of a sort of mini tutorial. But I have set up what we are already going to do, so I'm just going to write from my handy side screen, which you can probably see me glancing off to from time to time. So the first thing we need, obviously, is to import Luxon. We're going to import an object called datetime from Luxon. Oh, not Luxon, Luxon. Datetime is what they call their sort of the tool that you use to integrate with this all time. We're gonna save the current time in a constant, and that's really the most important thing we do here. We're gonna call this the date time obviously we're just actually we are going to use both the date and the time, even though I've said clock for now. But so we're going to call it date time. And to get this time, we will access the datetime object that we just added or imported. On that, we have some functions, and these are the things you would look up in the documentation. In our case, we use the function .local to get the local time, and then we use the function setLocale to change the format of the time, because obviously I'm gonna have this in Norwegian because I'm Norwegian and this clock will be useful to me in Norwegian. So this basically sets so that we have the right formatting for default, and so that we can have like the names of the days are in the correct language and that sort of thing. So let's just begin by console logging this, and we will console log the date time, and we can see how it looks. Yes, let's open the console again. And we get this datetime object you see here. There's a bunch of the stuff on this object. So here we have some like the current seconds. It was 36 seconds past the minute when I killed this thing, and that sort of stuff. Oh yeah, up here we have the date, the 2021. You can see I'm doing this on January 3rd. Okay, let's go back. So obviously this object isn't what we want. We want some sort of string that shows us the time, and we could create that ourselves. We could look at, okay, it's day 3. We could create like a third of thing, but one of the useful things about Luxon is it provides us with these things from on its own. So let's begin by just changing what we console log here. Let's do this. Let's call the function toLocaleString. So that's a function that Luxon uses. It means a string in your own language. And we're going to give it some settings, because you need to give these things some settings. And the settings that we're going to give it is exists in date time, time 24 simple. So that's the first time. This is the 24-hour clock simple. And there are tons of these setting files already, and you just need to look at the documentation on their website to understand what they do, and you can scroll through this big list and find the one that you want. I've just prepared it for us so we don't take that much time. And then let's refresh, and we can see, here we go, the time 24-hour single clock is 22:04. So that works out, that's what we want. But we also want some more stuff. Let's just begin building the render function that we want. We begin, as always, by adding a class name. And in this case, it'll be clock. And then in here, we're gonna have two different parts. So we're gonna have two H2s. Let's actually put this to a new line. We're gonna have an H2 here, which will be, let's give it a class name for time, because it's gonna be the time. And then we're gonna have an H2, which will have the class name dates, because those are the two things we want to keep in here. And then let's actually write these things. Just write date and time so that we can see that they show up properly. And let's go back. We can see here we have one called time and one called dates. Okay, let's go back here now and actually fill what we want. So obviously we need, since we are writing JavaScript inside our HTML like we've done before, we need these curly brackets. That means we can write JavaScript. And now for the time, we want what we already have up here. Let's just copy paste that and put it in here. Datetime toLocaleString, datetime 24 simple. And that's what we want in this thing. For the date, we want a very similar thing. We want datetime toLocaleString. Let's just copy that. And we could pick another one of these preset settings objects if we wanted. But I figured I'd create one custom settings object so that you can see what the actual format of this thing looks like. Let's before we make this thing, let's print that object and see what it looks like. Let's print just. You don't have to do this if you're following along, but I'm just going to show off datetime.24hour simple, so we can look at what the format would be, and maybe we can understand something. So if you refresh now, we get this here, and you see that this thing is basically an object with a couple of attributes, and in our case it has the attribute hour. It says numeric because we want the numeric style of hour. We have the minute in numeric because that's what we want. We don't want the words 22 and with the word 6. We want the numeric value, and we have a false flag on the hour 12 attribute, which means basically we don't want a 12-hour clock, and the default then is a 24-hour clock. So let's look at what we want to create for our thing. Let's add back our curly brackets, and we want to have datetime dot to locale string. You can even see that my editor is auto completing for me, and then we're going to pass it an object which is denoted by these curly brackets. So we want datetime dot to locale string. Oh no, sorry, I just did that. What am I doing? Curly brackets. And then in here we want some attributes. We want the attribute weekday because we want to show the dates, and we want this is going to be in the long format. I'll show you'll see in a second why we want these things. We want the day. It'll be in the numeric format, and then we'll have the month in the long format. There we go. Let's check out how this looks. And here it says Søndag 3. Januar, which is, well, the region for Sunday the 3rd of January. If we wanted, we could change all of these to number, numeric, numeric, and we get this in, oh, I must have misspelled something. Weekday, day, oh, there might not be one for weekday. Let's see. Ooh. I don't know. I can't remember what's wrong here. That's fine. We could set the date to numeric. I'm sure it's just that weekday doesn't have a numeric option. So we refresh this. Yeah, now we see 3-1, right? And the reason why we have month then day then month is because I've set this to the Norwegian language. If we had another locale which traditionally displays the day and month in the other order, then they would display in the other order. So this gives us a rather nice looking date thing. And now we have some time, pretty simple. Let's clean out this console log. And there we go. If you were to want to publish this to your GitHub again, actually, let's just do that. We need to stop our web server, of course. First thing we need to do is make sure that GitHub has our new code. So we write git status to see what's going on. Okay, we have a bunch of new files. Let's add those files by writing git add full stop. Git status again shows that we've added them correctly. Then we can write git commit to make sure that we have told git that we want these to work. Git commit, and let's say adds clock. And then git push, which will push this out. And now the information is there. So the last thing we need to make sure that this is live is to write the npm run deploy function. And now this is running through its standard build production things, which takes a little bit of time. Okay, now we can see that the build job is finished. I've cut in this video, hopefully, if I could be bothered, but so you didn't have to watch me wait. But I can tell you that I did also wait another minute or two after this finished before it actually showed up on the webpage. But let's go check it out. Again, we can go to the live webpage with this URL that we created earlier, which is down here. And we can see that we have the time and thing live on the webpage. So that's how you add some time, and that's how you can use one of these packages that don't rely on an external resource, but on your computer's own time. And that's pretty interesting, I think. These were all the episodes that I had planned for the tutorial, but maybe I'll make some more if there's any demand for any specific sorts of videos. In any case, you can check them out if they show up. Thank you for watching again.